Perfect. So for everybody online, there we go. Charisse just started recording the session for us, so just so you're aware. But good morning. This is Major Seth Polson. I'm the Vice President for the Sammy Kaiserslautern Post. Just want to welcome you all. Thank you for joining us today. Got a great presentation today. We're really looking forward to some really relevant information. So I just wanted to kick things off a little bit. Charisse, if you want to flip to the second slide, the housekeeping slide there.
All right.
Yeah, I'll just turn it over to you, Charisse, as I'm unfortunately having some connection issues today. So Charisse has volunteered to kind of step us through the slides since she's hosting those today. So thank you, Charisse.
I put a link to the slides in the chat, and the presentation or the slides are posted to our website. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them into the chat. We are recording this session, so you'll be able to go back and review it again later. Ask that you keep your camera and your mics off until the Q&A session. Just a few announcements as we get kicked off. Some upcoming post events. Tim Connolly, you want to talk about the meeting that we got coming up next month?
Sure, thanks, Charisse. We will be having in April, we'll be having a joint Rhine-Main Post Kaiserslautern Post meeting. It'll be virtual. It'll be a presentation on U.S. Air Force Europe, and the date is April 28th. We'll be coming out with more details in terms of exact time and things like that, but looking forward to a very good event. April 28th. More details coming in the news flash. Thanks, Charisse.
Thank you, Tim. Yep, so watch your emails for the monthly news flash, where you'll hear a lot more about the events that we've got coming up. And you can also go to the SAME National Calendar for more information. Want to put a plug in for the Kaiserslautern Post scholarships. There will be a application on the website soon. The deadline for submission is the 15th of April, and this is open to graduating high school students in the Kaiserslautern military community. If you want more questions, if you have any questions, you can send an email to the Post email box there, or you can call Vincenzo Foley or Chris Hobbs. There's their contact information on the slide. Put a plug in. It's never too early to start planning or mark your calendars for the golf event coming up on the 19th of August. This is our major fundraiser for the scholarship program. If you're interested in being a sponsor or supporting the tournament, reach out to Al Lucht. And there's his email address. Did Al join us? Don't see him. So there's some information on the golf tournament coming up. I'll turn it over to Chris Wilkes, who's our membership chair.
Hello, everyone. Yes, Chris Wilkes here, sustaining member chair for the Kaiserslautern Post. I'd just like to quickly welcome 4 new members that we have. Jason Thomas, Lieutenant Zoskia, Major Jesse Lance, and Graham Sharp. I do apologize if I have not pronounced your name properly. Please forgive me. Sergeant Bailey is usually in charge of individual memberships, so you can find his email address at the bottom of this slide. And next, please. And also like to recognize, as usual, our sustaining members for the Post. You can see here, all the logos should be up to date. If you see something not correct, please let us know, and we can fix that here on our slides as well as the website. And next, please. And next, we will have a sustaining member spotlight from AECOM. So Mr. Tim Conley will take care of that in just a moment. If you would like your company as a sustaining member also to give a spotlight, please let me know. My email address is there. I think, excuse me, a lot of people find it a valuable experience. as well as any membership issues or becoming a member. My email is there also. So with that, thank you very much, and I'll pass it to Mr. Tim Conley.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. And last week we were at the SAME Capital Week, and we also had a sustaining member spotlight moment there where my colleague, retired Brigadier General Tony Funkhauser, presented to a very large group. And I'm going to steal his approach, which was he didn't necessarily talk about the company as much as his experience at the company. And so I just want to spend 2 minutes doing that. You know, AECOM is a very large and complex organization where 47,000 people worldwide in over 100 countries. And that can be challenging. You know, it's a matrix organization. We have services, we have management, we have delivery teams, you know, all in different countries with different cultures. But and that does present some challenges in terms of finding your way through the company. At the same time, it makes my life easier. You know, I have to manage our relationship with the US government in Europe. So because of that size and complexity, it makes it easy to find capability and experience that we need to serve the US government as a client, just in a myriad of ways, be it from, you know, environmental master planning, design, and construction management. And despite the fact that we are a very large organization, I get to kind of handpick some of the people that I work with, and I can just say that the colleagues that I do work with on a daily basis, I've never had as rich as of an experience of working as I have with this company. And a couple of people are on the call. We have Jessica Shoplik and Michael Eccles, two people I work with on a daily basis. And just having them to work with is a real pleasure, and we have a great time working together. And just if we can go to the next slide, the one of the points of me talking about this is SAME is a place where industry and government are encouraged to engage with one another. And I just wanted to say to any of the colleagues out there who are more interested in AECOM or what it's like working in the private industry, you know, I'm available to talk anytime. And with that, I will hand it back over to whoever's leading the next part. Thank you. Kate, over to you.
Yes, thank you. The next program point is a presentation. I first want to introduce myself. My name is Greet Schrouwen. I know it's quite a difficult name to pronounce. It's a Belgian name. I'm a biologist and an environmental scientist, and I'm working already more than 20 years for Arcadis, the first years in Belgium and since 2006 in Germany. And all the time in the environmental business line. So I'm mainly working on site investigations and remediation activities. So yeah, I'm really happy to present today a quite hot topic. It's about PFAS, which stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. Some challenges and also the solutions that Arcadis can offer. Maybe I will switch off my camera and I will try to take the control. Yes, that seems to work. So as I said, the title of today is PFAS, and I will talk about some challenges related with PFAS and the Arcadis solutions. And my presentation consists of 5 topics, and I will start with a short introduction to PFAS, also called the forever chemicals. And then in topics 2 and 4, I will talk about 3 challenges and Arcadis solutions. And the first challenge is the evolving regulatory landscape. The second topic are the challenging site assessments, and the third challenge is the potential liabilities related with firefighting firms. And at the end of my presentation, I will summarize our PFAS solutions. So my first contact with PFAS dates back already to 2004, when I was involved in a PFAS site investigation in Belgium. So in the meantime, it's more than 17 years ago. And here in Germany, PFAS popped up in the media in 2006 with a case in North Rhine-Westphalia, where biosludge was mixed with waste material from the paper industry and then spread on agricultural land. And in the meantime, there are a lot of articles available on the web, and I included some of them here on this slide. Here in Europe, PFAS was really front page news in 2019 in the Netherlands, and also last year in Belgium, where the facility of 3M in the end in the harbor of Antwerp was also in focus of the investigations. As you see here in the article below, the Belgian authorities shut down the PFAS production at the 3M plant in Antwerp. So because PFAS is more and more in the media during the last years, we observe really an increased public awareness to PFAS, for example, also the film Dark Waters, but also regulatory and industry awareness. So therefore, I suppose that most of you heard already about PFAS, but with this slide, I would like to give you a main overview of the most important characteristics of these compounds, also called the forever chemicals. So PFAS is not just one single parameter. It's a group of thousands of man-made chemicals. And some of them are categorized as persistent organic pollutants, and they are therefore forbidden or restricted in use. But on the other hand, PFAS has really wonderful characteristics. So they are heat resistant, they are oil and water repellent, so they are used in various industries and applications. For example, they are used in firefighting foams at military sites, or in clothes to make them water repellent, or in the paper industry, just to name a few of them. And the very wide use of PFAS means also that there are many potential sources for release into the environment. And because they are not biodegradable, some PFAS can migrate over really long distances. And although they are man-made chemicals, they are really found all over the world. And they are measured in human blood, in all populations. And for example, they are also posing a threat to drinking water sources. So you feel that this group is a group of parameters and it's really causing challenges. And the first challenge I would like to start with is the evolving regulatory landscape. So drinking water guidance for PFAS and also groundwater guidance are based on chronic studies with animals like rats and mice, and also on the results of epidemiological studies of human populations that have been exposed to PFAS. But the results of those epidemiological studies, they are not always very consistent, and it's not always clear if effects are really caused to be caused by PFAS. So, but based on the results of the chronic studies, there are indications that PFAS and PFOA, which are two important parameters of the whole PFAS group, can cause cancers. And generally, you see effects like here shown on the liver, on the kidneys, and the bladder. However, it's also difficult to extrapolate the animal results to humans because humans react differently as animals. And another issue is that most studies are really just focusing on PFAS and PFOA, and there's quite little information about health effects from other PFAS. But at the end, based on those toxicological studies, several organizations like here the European Food Safety Agency or the US EPA, they are publishing TDIs. And TDI stands for tolerable daily intake. And this number describes the amount of a substance that can be ingested daily over a complete lifetime without any health risk. And what you can see in this table is a general tendency that those levels are decreasing over the years. So from 150 nanograms per kilogram body weight per day in 2008 until 0.63 nanograms per kilogram per day in 2020. And these numbers are used in a lot of states to set regulatory criteria. So the lower the TDIs, the lower those numbers. So really toxicity is driving the numbers down. What we see in Germany is that several states publish their own papers related to PFAS regulations in groundwater and in soil, and all with some minor differences. And since beginning of this year, there's a publication available, which I show you at the right side. It's a publication issued by the federal government, and the criteria mentioned in this paper, they are still based on the older EFSA guidance, so on the older TDI values. And there's a possibility that the numbers are further going down. And yes, this is just Germany, and same discussions are going on in other countries. So we really feel that authorities worldwide are searching for a framework of standards that, on the one hand, controls the risk to man and environment, but on the other hand, the number shall also give some room for soil management. And it's very difficult to find this equilibrium. So the numbers are already low, and if the thresholds are further decreasing, you reach somewhere the general background concentration. It means that, yeah, a whole country will be like a potential area of concern, which will be difficult to handle. So currently, there are really a lot of studies going on. The numbers are changing rapidly, they are decreasing, and it's really a challenge to keep that overview. Try to go to the next slide. Yeah. So to understand and to follow up the regulatory landscape, an international working group within Arcadis was established, and I'm also part of it some years ago to develop a tool to follow up the global available standards. And in the meantime, we have an app for this, which is really our solution to understand and to follow up the regulatory landscape. And our work is mainly focusing on those first three bullet points, so drinking water, surface water, and groundwater standards. But we are also looking to restrictions on the usage of firefighting foams, on disposal guidance, and restrictions related to food packaging. And all those data, they are compiled in one big database. And from this database, you can filter information based on the type of information you require. And you can search, for example, for country information. You can focus on certain media or searching for specific compounds. And then from this application, it's possible to get the output as a tabular overview, but it's even possible to have this information also available on the map. And on this screenshot, you see, for example, a map of the United States with information about the PFAS groundwater standard, which is in fact a direct output of our application. Then the next topic is related to challenging PFAS site assessments, which I would like to start to explain based on a conceptual model of a typical airport. So you see here a picture of a typical airport with a central runway. And from the activities on this site, one can derive potential PFAS sources. And for example, here at the left side is the airport fire station where foams are stored. And yeah, it may be possible that in the past incidents occurred during filling procedures, or that after fire training or firefighting, the trucks are cleaned in this area, and that water with PFAS is collected in the stormwater retention pond here behind, but also maybe in the stormwater sewer. A secondary PFAS source could be the irrigation of a part of the land, which you see here on the right side. And this could be really a source, also a PFAS source if water is taken from the retention pond here on the left side. Then also here on the right side in front, you see a fire training facility where tests are performed with PFAS-containing foams, and there's a potential runoff of foams, or also foams were released in the stormwater sewer. And then other potential source is visualize that here in the back, the previous aircraft fire where PFAS-containing foams could have been used in the past also for firefighting. And in this picture, I will show you the surroundings of the airport. So when I look to the US air bases here in Germany, they are mostly located on the top of a hill. And here we can see that surface water originating from the airbase flows into the neighboring agricultural land. And this water may be used for crop irrigation. and it will also influence somehow the groundwater quality. And if you imagine then that our drinking water supply wells also connected to houses and also used for cattle, then also private persons and animals can be affected by PFAS. And these slides summarize, in fact, all this information. So I colored the pathways for PFAS purple. And yeah, now you see the complexity of the PFAS conceptual site model. And in most cases, it's even more complicated as visualized on this picture. For example, if foam was used here at a fire training facility, and it's possible that the foam is blown away and that also contamination is caused here at the other side of the river. And another example is that maybe in the past construction measures took place with excavation activities, and that so-called clean soil was excavated, which was spread over a bigger area. So really understanding such a conceptual model is really important, and yeah, it should be the basis for each investigation program at PFAS sites. And we need to know the PFAS sources, how PFAS is released to the environment. We need to understand the transport mechanism and how humans and environmental receptors are exposed to PFAS. Yeah, PFAS site assessments and remedial investigations are generally challenging, but yeah, what's the difference compared to investigations of conventional parameters like, for example, TPH or CVOCs? And I summarized the answer in these 2 bullet points. So as shown on the previous slides, in the most cases, we have quite complex conceptual site models. So compared to, for example, CVOC, PFAS are persistent, and they will spread over a long distance, and yeah, mostly more receptors are involved. Then another big challenge are the PFAS precursors. I don't really have the time to get into details into this topic, but the majority of the precursors is not detected by standard analysis. But at the end, they can really represent a long-term source. So, and that's something you really need to be aware of in performing analysis. And the third issue is the risk of cross-contamination. So PFAS is everywhere and potentially also in field equipment. And yeah, if you in combination then with very low standards and the low detection limits, it's also a really important topic. So there are several challenges related with site assessments with PFAS. And we have several solutions available to overcome the challenges. We developed several guidance reports for the German authorities, which 2 of them are showed here on this slide. And the last one, the green one here in the middle, was published in 2020 for the German Federal Environmental Ministry. And yeah, this guidance includes good management tools for first the execution of site investigations, but also for remediation of local and extended PFAS contaminations. Then, okay, it has also developed some internal standard operation procedure. For example, the one presented here, it's the German version related to PFAS fieldwork. So really going into details about the things we need to avoid during field activities, like, for example, the use of Teflon-coated field equipment and recommended practice. Then mainly our US colleagues, they are more and more implementing flux-based investigation approaches as a really useful method for PFAS remediation investigations. So this means they are not only focusing on just contaminant concentrations, but they also take into account hydraulic conductivity. And by doing this, you can much better quantify mass transport along transects. And yeah, at the end, this helps us identifying the key source areas, and it gives us a much better insight in offsite migration risks. And yeah, in fact, such mass flux approaches were already developed years ago by EBA, by ITRC, and there's also practice here in Germany. Certainly, I'm working from Darmstadt here in the state of Hesse. There's also some publications focusing on the combination of mass and mass flux. But now we are really using this approach within the remediation decision process too, to optimize the remedy and to reduce the overall remediation costs. At least our US colleagues, they applied this methodology already in project for the US Air Force with really good and promising results. And nowadays, those PFAS data can be made visible in digital conceptual site models, integrating GIS web map, a Power BI dashboard, a three-dimensional web viewer for visualization, and that all related then with the document library. So yeah, the beauty of the entire process is that it's really real time and that the information is available for all stakeholders at any time. And then important in performing our site assessments and remedial investigations is the focus on the remedy. So this means that we use, for example, those mass flux approaches, but we also take, of course, in count the objectives of our clients. And Arcadis is looking to the standardized methodologies for remediation, like, for example, sorption on activated carbon. But we are also working together with academic and industrial experts to explore new technologies. And here in Germany, we have some big projects going on related to land development at extended PFAS contaminated sites. And there are several alternatives to solve the PFAS problem, like disposal of soils, but landfill space in Germany is very limited. And I always have the feeling that nobody wants to have to do anything with PFAS. So it's really difficult to get rid of those soils. It would also require a lot of transport causing emissions, so that is not very a sustainable solution. And at the same time, also sealing of big surfaces is not a sustainable solution. Also, incineration is very economically difficult or really related with really high costs. And there are also no suitable facilities that can manage really big soil capacities. So we propose to our client and also to the authorities a sustainable soil management concept where we contain PFAS contaminated soils in a technical construction within the impacted areas, which is showed here with this picture. So we can minimize the transport ways, and we proposed such a soil management concept already for the US Air Base in Spangdahlem. The planning is taking quite a lot of time because you need, for example, more time for permitting, also for planning infrastructural measures to optimize soil transport and also measures to prevent further exposure to PFAS, for example, related with leaching. And important to know is that we are not just planning to store those soils in a pile, but we are really also planning to improve the soil quality within those structures by on-site treatment technologies. So we hope that at some point those soils can be reused again. So really by focusing site assessments on the remedy and also thinking outside the box, we are able to serve our clients with good and sustainable solutions. Then the next topic are the potential liabilities related with PFAS-containing foams, also called AFFF, which stands for aqueous film-forming foams. And the solutions to get away from those liabilities. So foams with PFAS were first developed, somewhere in the 60s, I believe, and they are used to control Class B hazards, which means fires with flammable liquids. And there are more and more regulations coming up with restrictions about the manufacturing, but also distribution and disposal of those AFFF foams, which are most of the time based on the C8 chemicals like PFOS. And if I look to the US, in some of the states, those regulations are enacted already, and in other states, they are in the proposal phase. And here in Europe, we have already restrictions via the REACH legislation for PFOS and PFOA. And I suppose that restriction for PFHXA, which is a C6 chemical, will also follow soon. And then the European Chemicals Agency, they announced in February of this year that they bring forward a proposal for a European-wide restriction on all PFAS in firefighting foams. So they are really proposing to ban the placing on the market and the use and the export of all PFAS in firefighting foams. So this is from the European Chemicals Agency, and at the same time, 5 European countries are working on a restriction proposal that will cover all PFAS in other uses. And those 5 countries are Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. And they are working on a plan which they want to submit to the Chemicals Agency, the European Chemicals Agency, somewhere next year. So yes, with regulations on the rise, but not fully enacted in most places, there's on the one hand, no pressure to replace foam products immediately because the foam is doing its job. It will put out a fire. But on the other hand, companies are also thinking about their long-term risk management, and they prefer to shift towards the fluorine-free firefighting foams, also called the F3 foams. And our clients have 2 choices. On the first side, so they can continue to use the fluorinated foams they currently have on hand and deal with the environmental liability and regulatory pressure, which is here visualized on the right side as remediation. Or the other option is that they replace the foam before they use it with one that will not release PFAS to the environment. And in case of such a replacement, a new foam has to be chosen, and the decision is between a C4 and a C6 foam, so the a short chain AFFF, or on the other hand, a fluorine-free foam. And yeah, those C4 and C6 foams, they have the same type of chemistry as the original C8 foams, but they are typically less bioaccumulative. But on the other hand, they are still extremely persistent and also more mobile in the aquifer versus those C8 foams. So at the end, they are more difficult to treat, in fact. And if the European Chemicals Agency really decides to restrict also PFHXA, which is such a C6 chemical, also these foams will be restricted. And so it will also include those foams. Yeah, so either way, the role consultants have, like Arcadis, but also other consulting companies, is to assist our clients in recognizing the risk they have in front of them and helping them navigate the process of replacing firefighting foams when they are ready for it. And it's important to know that the replacement is a bit more complicated than just the old foam out and a new foam in. And you can see here the approach that Arcadis takes to foam transition. And in the first step, we need to understand the post-transition goal. So is the goal of our client just removal of all the PFAS from foam, or are they just focusing on the C8? So we need to decide on the type of foam we want to use. Then in the second step is to evaluate the impacts of a foam replacement on the system operation. Those F3 foams, so the fluorine-free foams, they have often higher viscosities. And because of this, it's possible that pumps need to be replaced, or it's also possible that, that there will be differences in use, for example, changes in the application rates. And these are really things that need to be evaluated. And then we come to step 3. So after establishing the type of foam and the required modifications for foam delivery, the question remains, what do you do with the existing PFAS impacted infrastructure? Is it best to clean it? Maybe sometimes. Is it best to replace it? Sometimes. And yeah, sometimes it's really a combination of both. So there's a cost-benefit analysis required to decide which way you are going. And then step 4 is the system cleaning or component replacement. And Arcadis has a patented biodegradable cleaning agent for this available. Then in step 5 is, I believe, one of the hardest steps in any PFAS project. So really defining the end goals in terms of analytical data. And then at the end, in step 6, this includes PFAS waste disposal, and also the waste disposal regulations are changing rapidly. So really effective cleaning is important to reduce the overall PFAS impacted waste, which needs to be disposed of. In the meantime, Arcadis has received two grants from DoD to demonstrate PFAS cleaning work through their ESTCP program, which stands for Environment, Security and Technology Certification Program. And the first of the two grants was provided to optimize both the cleaning agent composition and the cleaning protocols to further improve on the performance we've seen. And the second grant, just getting underway, is to fully disassemble an aircraft firefighting system and characterize the foam system. And this will help identify where PFAS is in the foam system and whether any of the parts are more efficiently removed than cleaned. And at the end, this will improve our third step from my previous slides, which is the cost-benefit analysis. So we come to our final topic, summarizing our PFAS solutions. So there are several challenges related with PFAS, and I just focused on a few of them mentioned here on the top. And our solutions are visualized below. So to give an answer to the changing regulatory framework, we have our global database, which is continuously updated, and it really helps Arcadis and also our clients to have at all times insights in the newest PFAS regulations worldwide. Then PFAS also means complex site assessments and remedial investigations, and we have tools available for good site characterization, and this characterization will also focus on the remedy, and at the end, it shall result in a cost reduction and shorter remedy durations. And then at the end, our clients are sensitive to public relations or to negative public relations, and they want to minimize potential liabilities related with those AFFF, so the PFAS containing foams, and we can support them with our foam transition program. Yeah, now I come to the end of my presentation. So PFAS is a very broad topic, and it's really difficult to bring the PFAS story in only half an hour. But globally, we performed already more than 700 PFAS projects in 14 countries. So we have really a lot of know-how available in our company. And if you are searching for more information, we have a lot of publications, and we also have such service sheets available. You can always have a look on our webpage, which is included here, really with a focus on PFAS. And if you need more information, of course you can also connect with me or my colleague here in Germany, Michael Reinhardt. Yes, thank you. That was my presentation for today.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. I know this is such a complex issue, and there's so much being worked on. It's great to see all the stuff that Arcadis is working on. I was really interested to see that there's grants out there that they're using as well. Very interesting to me.
Yeah.
But great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. All right. So if we would like to take a few minutes now, if anyone online is interested in asking some questions, please feel free to chime in. You can unmute, you can type a question in the chat, raise your hand, whatever you would be easiest. So are there any questions out there? All right, I see a question there in the chat. What do you do with your IDW? Well, first of all, I don't know what IDW is. So, Greet, does that mean anything to you? And if so, are you able to answer?
No, sorry.
Investigation derived waste.
Yeah, those investigation-derived waste you mean from let's say installing groundwater monitoring wells, and so I suppose that's. But thank you. Okay, that was the other one. For groundwater monitoring wells, we try to keep as much as, let's say, waste or soil material at the same location. At the original depths, if we are working on it. If that isn't possible, we are really collecting and analyzing the waste before it's disposed somewhere. As somewhere, it's in officially location. But the purpose is always to keep as much as material at the site at the original location.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you very much. Let's see, Chris Wilkes says, thanks for the presentation. No question, but thank you. And then Charisse asks, how many PFAS treatment technologies are currently approved in Germany?
Improved, that's maybe difficult to say, but yeah, at the end, there are two types of remediation technologies. And the first ones really tries to concentrate on separation of PFAS from waste and to concentrate them in the waste. And the other type is really tries to destruct PFAS. And if I look to soil, we have some conventional technologies like excavation and landfilling and incineration. I think these are currently approved in Germany. There are also some measures going on related with soil washing. Soil washing is more like a separation technology where you try to minimize the waste, because at the end you still have some waste available which need to be landfilled or incinerated. I think that can also be seen as an improved technology here in Germany. And then, as I said, also the type of soil management we are proposing now, for example, at the US Air Base in Spangdahlem. So really those sustainable soil management concepts. And for water, what I see here in Germany, it's still mainly focused on the sorption on activated carbon. So pump and treat systems with the use of activated carbon. And also here, there are some more experimental technologies coming up, for example, with the injection of activated carbons in aquifer, or also fractionation technologies, but I have the feeling that's still in an experimental phase. So really to say how much or how many PFAS treatment technologies are currently approved in Germany is a bit difficult. So there are conventional technologies available, but there's a lot of issues also in experimental technologies. But there I have a bit of the feeling that the US is in front of Europe. So they are more working on the experimental work as we do here in Europe.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I had a question as well. Looking at the foam replacements, using the fluorine-free foam, or the F3, right? What are the drawbacks of switching to that? Is that a more expensive foam? Is it less? Does it not work as well? Do you need more of it to still do the same thing that you would do with the C8? What are some of the drawbacks of the F3 that would discourage companies from switching?
It's difficult to answer me, because I'm personally, I'm not really involved in those foam transition projects that's currently mostly going on in Australia, but also in the US, where we did some work on airports. I know for those F3 foams, they have another type of chemistry for fire suppression compared to those really PFAS containing foams, where there are generally foam floats on the flammable liquids, and those F3 foams, they are use some slow burning organic. But I know also that there are some studies available, for example, also from the Dutch ministry, the RIVM, and also from the European Chemicals Agency, really identifying that those F3 foams can really replace the C8 foams. Sorry, I can't say if it's more expensive or not. I don't know. Mark, do you have an answer to that? Do you have any experience?
No, Greed, kind of like you said, I don't know if it's more expensive, but my understanding, as you described, is that the foams are also very reliable and get the basic same result as the older foams containing PFAS. So, yeah, we could probably get back to you, Seth, about that and see about the cost wise.
Okay, no worries. I was just kind of curious, if there was anything holding companies back from changing cost-wise or other reasons they wouldn't want to, other than the fact that most of them already have F8 or C8 systems installed already, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah, of course. As I also showed in my presentation, so in a lot of countries, there's some legislation proposed, but it's not really enacted already. So currently, there's no real urgency. The AFF works and it's doing a great job, and there's still, for example, light water from 3M available, which you can use. So why not use it if it's still allowed to use? But somewhere there will be a point that that will be changed.
Wow, yeah, that's very interesting. There's so much research, so many studies done that how this can be very dangerous and very bad for the environment and people and animals and everything. And it's still very commonly in use. But all right. Well, does anyone else have any other questions? I think that looks like it wraps it up. But, well, again, I wanted to say thank you so much, Greet. It was a wonderful presentation. We really appreciate you taking the time to put this together and share it with us. I know it's always a little difficult and interesting trying to do these virtually, but I saw we had, I think, about 15 people at least online, and some more hopping in and out. So I know all of us really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that will wrap up our meeting for this month for the Kaiserslautern Post. We'll be meeting again next month, and look for more details on that. And we just appreciate everybody. If you have any questions or any ideas for presentations, please reach out to us as well. We also had our plug at the beginning for our sustaining members. So if there's any of those sustaining members who'd like to contact Mr. Wilkes about a spotlight, please do that. Otherwise, thank you all so much. And one last shout out to Sharice. Thank you for hosting and running the slides on the military network. It's always a little bit challenging. So I appreciate you helping us out with that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Oh, and in case anybody didn't see,